You guys ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. And away we go. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing on Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And for those of you joining us for the first time, here's our format. A few guys, in this case it's two guys and a gal, sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm pleased to have as my co-host Robert Spinoza of RPM Mortgage. Mark Hanf is off today. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Now write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. And the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, which is located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Check them out. You can reach them at 916-777-5511. And today's trivia theme is famous lines in the movies. So if you guys are moviegoers, then you'll probably get this. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. Now today we have a special guest, Kathryn Harris, a CPA with the CPA firm of Parati and Karat.
Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent, good. And what did you want to share with us today?
I brought a couple of topics for us to discuss.
Okay, good.
The first one I think we'll start off with is the student loans and options for those parents thinking about 529 plans, and then also maybe we can jump into discussing people who are already in college and have student loans and possible options for them and what's kind of changing on that front.
Okay, now when I went to school back in the Stone Age, in fact, my daughter and I were just teasing about that, about
Triceratops roamed the earth.
Exactly. Yeah, when we were playing, talking about playing baseball, I said, yeah, the balls were square back then. We were talking about, student loans. Now, interest rates were very high when I went to college, but I was really fortunate to get a student loan at 3%.
Wow.
Yeah, it was one of those, they just wanted to just kind of give it away.
That's good for now.
Oh, is it good? Yeah, what are the rates now for student loans?
Their federal loans are around, I think,
6 or 7?
8%.
Yeah, see, when I was going to school, they were actually subsidizing it. Here, they're actually making money, of course, assuming people pay them back. Do you have any statistics on how many people are defaulting on their loans?
I actually don't have any statistics now, but that's where the talk is about, is whether it's going to start happening. I know it's starting to increase.
The default rate?
The default rate.
Okay, because I would have thought it would have increased a few years ago with the recession and all that.
Yeah, it's starting to. It has been kind of slowly over time. It's one of those things that they've been talking about after the home bubble. Is that what's going to be next? Is the student loan, because people are defaulting. And it's one of those things that you can't get rid of.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's sort of IRS
it's oddly
liens,
enough, they don't disclose that when you go in, when you sign up for college, and
Really?
if you go into the financial office, you're kind of like, oh, here's free money. Here it is.
Exactly.
Right. What's your choice? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, sort of like if you had to have an operation, it's like, okay, it's going to cost $800,000, but if you don't, you're going to die in about 20 minutes. You don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
Well, one of the funny things too with student loan, I see the student loan debt part of it. I don't see the origination part of it, so I don't know what necessarily happens when people go and get the loans. But I see once they're on the credit report, I see how that impacts their financial future.
Sure.
And I certainly see a lot of home buyers that come in and they've got a lot of student loan debt, and they've been managing it best they can, but now they're looking at getting on with their lives. And I think a discussion about that at the time they were taking those loans, or considering their educational options, would certainly be beneficial to a lot of people.
Well, especially when, if you're going to become a doctor or an attorney or somewhere where it's really expensive. They're coming out, out of school with $200,000 debt.
Absolutely.
I mean, how are they ever going to pay that back?
But those ones actually, you would think their income is going to meet what their expectations are. They're going to come out of college
Except
with a compensation.
if they're getting the job.
That's right.
The real key, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot, and this is the heartbreaking part, is when people incur that kind of debt and then don't go into the field for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's generally the problem.
Yeah.
They go in just as an undergraduate with an me, with a communications major.
Right.
Yeah.
And come out and they have $200,000, $150,000 in debt, and their income is $30,000.
I like to tell them they already bought a house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing
Very
if they,
true.
I mean,
And it has the same terms, right?
yeah.
Right.
If you don't pay it off it's federal and you don't pay it off in 25 years, they actually forgive it.
Oh, no,
Exceptions, but
can we
generally,
strike that from the
Yeah,
radio
yeah,
show?
yeah. Exceptions to it, but they do in certain cases. So it's very similar to a mortgage
That's
payment.
interesting.
Well, do they, again, going back to what I remember, is they would say you don't have to start paying it back until 6 months after you graduate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that still the same?
Yes, depending on it, but generally speaking, yes.
And the interest didn't accrue until you got out.
And there is a caveat to that with home ownership, because a lot of times you have people that are out of college and now they go to embark on their lives and their loans are in deferment and they think, hey, whatever, and then the lender looks at that and says, oh, wait a second, well, when will you start paying on that?
Well, and they should,
Right.
because that is it will hit the cash flow.
Right. But I think that speaks to the people who incur the debt as well.
And they just don't realize it. Those are the things that are just so on it. People aren't educated when they go into school, realizing what the outcome is on that side, and they don't realize that how much they're going to borrow, what's at that interest rate for 10 years, what that principal is going to be.
Yeah, when I was doing it 3%, it's a lot different than when you're borrowing at 6 or 7%, especially at 25 years.
And if they're not looking at it from that angle, forget about the tax implications.
Exactly. They don't even. They're just going in. And, okay, I need to go to this school. I need to, and I will sign on the dotted line and not.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know what? You mentioned 529, and we just happened to have gotten an email that was addressed generically to the show, and so I figured, well, we got someone here who can answer it.
Yeah.
And it has to do with 529 plans, and the questions have to do. The question basically was about, what can you tell us about it with regard to contributions and what's deductible, or the accrued or deferred taxes or tax-free.
Sure.
What can you tell us about that?
If you put the money in, that is actually after tax, so it accumulates earnings and should. If you put the money in, you have a daughter or son, or you establish an account, you fund it over a period of years. If that money is used for education, for college, you can take distributions from those accounts and use it without having to pay taxes on the earnings.
Okay.
So that's where it's the benefit there. So it's very similar to a Roth.
Roth IRA. It's like a Roth IRA.
You pay post-tax, after-tax dollars. Earnings are tax-free.
Right.
That's
There's not too many limitations. I mean, you can have unlimited income in order to do it, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And there's a number of plans, so you're not limited to any specific one 529 plan in the specific state you are in, or in the county, or wherever you are. I have one for my daughters, and I think it's with Virginia.
Okay.
There are a little bit of caveats with the tax, I believe, depending on what state you are with, there is some tax implications, minimal.
Okay. Yeah. There's also something about the ability to transfer to another beneficiary.
Yeah, I've heard about that as well.
That's what it's a nice perk about it, so that it should your firstborn.
The prodigal son doesn't go to college.
That's actually important.
So you kind of start to realize what child needs it more,
Right.
and you can actually transfer it.
Well, I think we talk about this. We joke about it. Okay, but there's a lot of people. I'm one of them. I'm in this boat. I've got a 9-month-old son.
And he's ready for. He's a smart guy. He's ready for
Yeah.
college now, right?
He does have a full head of hair already. But no, I mean, my wife and I are looking at these options, and I think, like a lot of other financial vehicles, tools, whatever you want to call them, it's just a lot of confusion that swirls around all of them. And I think people benefit from the discussion of, people know about it, and they talk about it, and they put it in frank terms. I think it helps a lot of us. I know I'm listening to you guys talk about 529s because I need to know more about it. I find it fascinating.
Okay. And we are going to cut to our first commercial break, and here is the first trivia question. And again, the theme is famous lines in the movies. Okay, in the movie Wall Street, what actor utters the line, "Greed is good"? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. In the movie Wall Street, what actor utters the line, "Greed is good"? 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, email address, and remember to speak slowly and spell out your email letter one letter at a time, and we'll be right back. Good. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Robert Spinoza of RPM Mortgage, and we're in the studio here with Kathryn Harris, a CPA. We just upped the level here, you know, Robert, by having a CPA in the
Yeah,
room.
now we're really on our toes.
Yeah. You hear that? We got to step up our game. Okay. Here is the first trivia question. In the movie Wall Street, what actor utters the line, "Greed is good"? Anybody?
Do we actually win the prize?
Well, no. We have to let that
She's
be the audience.
new.
Yeah, she knew. Yeah.
But it's Gordon Gekko.
Gordon Gekko, Michael Douglas. That is correct. Okay, Kathryn. One of the things you wanted to talk to us about and educate us, as I used to say, about increasing tax rates, sales tax, income tax, and the possible impact if enough people move out of state, which I thought was very interesting.
Well, if you've seen some of those commercials in California, they're from Texas.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
From
Come on.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Hey guys, if you get tired of paying taxes, come on out. Yeah, come on down.
Come on down, yeah.
Right. So, and I actually just saw a news article 2-3 days ago about what businesses made that decision.
Oh.
And I'm not sure in California, if you start to realize where it's for me, I am under the age of 30. I've heard about the high tax rates in the early 80s, but I didn't necessarily experience it.
She's a child. We allow children here on the show. Yes.
So with the new tax increases on the federal and on the state level, it started to get to that point where it started to push over the 50% mark. It's making that way up.
I mean, we had, obviously here in California we have good weather, but I remember visiting North Carolina some years back, only about 6 years ago, and I was amazed that I'd say less than 30% of the people I met had an accent.
Right.
I mean, because of the research triangle
Yeah,
that they have. There's a lot of people come from New York. And,
Right.
I mean, they had a New York accent, but not the the Mayberry RFD type of thing that you'd expect. I mean, it was a high tech type of place, and North Carolina is somewhat close to the longitude. That'd be the latitude line, and so the weather's not that much different.
Right.
I don't know how their taxes are, but there are so many states. I mean, Texas doesn't have one, and Texas is a beautiful state. It's got so I get very frustrated with California, except that I love the weather here.
Right.
The weather's pretty awesome, especially in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
But exactly that is, at one point there's going to be a tipping point where the benefits of staying in California are going to not outweigh some of the costs.
Yeah.
And you go to various states that are booming. Colorado, Denver seems to be
Right.
just blasting.
Oh, yeah.
And
There was a time it boomed, and I saw it, crash. And,
Well, you talk about, Michigan is the perfect example of that for a lot of reasons, but it's funny because the tax discussion doesn't often come up in the first lines of any conversation about brain drain. And I think that's what you're talking about when you talk about people moving to a certain state or, looking for opportunities there. I don't think tax comes up enough in that sense either.
really? No, actually, I thought, I hear it a lot.
You do?
Yeah.
I haven't noticed it. I always see people chasing opportunities and things like that, and tax is secondary.
Well, when I got out of college, they had just changed the personal service corporation tax or personal holding company tax, where it used to be 70%.
Wow.
I mean, can you imagine paying 70% of your taxes?
Move to Denmark.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like 70. It's like, I think that's the norm, isn't it?
Right.
And
70-80%
Yes,
taxes.
might as well go to Europe.
You take a box of crayons, draw a few lines, and say I'm an artist, and now I want social medicine.
Right.
That works. I like that. But then, what about sales tax?
And
You
that's the
mentioned
same thing. We talked about it. It's actually weird how it's impacting lots of people. We talked about, or we're thinking about Amazon and sales tax, and I think it's actually just something that was on the federal level where they were trying to decide whether they're going to start to basically make the decision across the board.
Like a national sales tax.
Exactly. And
It's weird. Part of me goes, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." But then, first of all, once they do it, you're never going to get rid of it. And then how much production is going to go down? A lot of people say, "Oh, you just add a few percent." I mean, it impacts. When
Well,
they
I
have the
think-
luxury tax, remember that with
Right.
boats and all that?
I think a lot of business models are based off of that right now too. So you throw a wrench in those works as well. A lot of businesses that otherwise would not have existed, built built their business off of the online model because people.
Yeah.
I mean, I cycle. So, for example, if you wanted to buy a $10,000 road bike right now, you could go to your local bike shop and you pay the tax on it, or you can get it online, have it shipped to you. That's a lot of tax.
Yeah, and even if you have to pay for shipping, it's
Right.
probably still less.
Right, and they even offer services where they'll fly you out there to try the bike because they know if they get the deal, it's better for them anyway. You're not paying sales tax, so it's worth it for you to do that.
And it's already taken away from local businesses. You start to
Right.
it's out
That's
there
true.
for them not to have to pay sales
A lot of
tax. They
implications
have
of
to
it.
be
Right.
outside of California and not have a presence in
But see,
California.
and what these politicians don't understand, or they understand and they don't want it, is the way to make money for themselves is to lower the taxes. I mean, if they, and we figured this out years ago, that if this was at a time when the stock market was up and real estate market was up,
Right.
that if they would have lowered the capital gains tax rate to about 9%.
What was it at the time?
The capital gains rate? It was 20%.
Okay.
Yeah. But if they would have lowered it to about 9%, they could have wiped out the entire deficit in 2 years. And the main reason is because you had, the Gettys and the Kennedys
Right.
and all the super, super wealthy people who had all of this capital gain locked up. And they said, you know what? Why should we, we're thinking
Right.
about selling, but
Right.
why do we want to pay that tax? So
Yeah.
legally, they didn't have to.
Well, every once in a while, if you watch enough Sunday talk shows in a row, you'll hear some politician say that taxation influences behavior, and nothing could be more true. I think, as you see on those levels, when you have huge tax implications, it's going to change the way people do business.
I got to say that I think almost without a doubt, every time I get a ballot and it asks, do you want to increase taxes for firemen or schools or whatever, I always say no. And the reason isn't because I don't like firemen.
Right.
It's because it never really ends up in their hands. And the same thing with like the school.
Yeah.
It doesn't end up like for kids getting more computers and
Right.
books and stuff
Right.
like that.
Read the fine
Well,
print.
well,
It's
here's a good example.
True,
yeah.
Well, look what happened with the lottery. Okay, they said, yeah, we should have the California lottery because look, the schools will do it. So what happens? Lottery makes a lot of money, and then the state goes, oh, well now you don't need as much
Right.
because the
Right.
lottery's doing it. So
Right.
it was just maybe a wash.
Well, that's exactly. I think what happened with the last proposition that was passed was that that specific proposition raised money for school, but that does not restrict them taking money from an alternative source.
Perfect. That's a great example. Yeah, that's exactly it. Okay, and hey, we still have some time here. You also wanted to talk about the stock market gains in
Is it
2000.
going crazy? Or is it just me?
No, it's not just you.
I don't understand why, because the economy still, is it like a false bubble? Or?
That's what I'm thinking. I just sit here back and I just don't understand how it is.
Well, let me say something, because I feel I have a perspective on this that my industry is driven by, and that is bond prices. So, in mortgages, we're looking at bond prices all the time because we're pricing home loans off of that. So one of the things that I've noticed is obvious, where we tend to forget. You have to look at the Fed's intervention in the market over all this time with all of this QE. They are basically, and one of their intents, whether implicit or explicit, is they have been trying to drive people out of the safe investments into riskier assets, and that is the stock market. And I mean, this QE program's been going on for years now. Yeah, I mean, so we tend to forget the obvious in these situations. Wow, look at the stock market, look at the levels it's at. Yeah, but look at how long and how much QE has been.
How many QEs are we at number 3 or
Well,
4?
I think we're in 3.
Are we at 3?
It's like, we're thinking about extending it, so
Well,
maybe
yeah.
we're still.
What it reminds me of is like the Rocky movies.
Right,
They're almost
yeah,
getting
we're
Rocky.
going there.
Eventually it'll be Rocky 38.
No, the Club
Rocky,
Line one, yeah.
Rocky wears the 10s.
No,
The grandson's coming.
That's it, yeah.
Last time they changed the language to make it unlimited, and I think that is what really we're
You don't
dealing
have to
with.
change it anymore.
Right.
Right,
I
just
mean,
make
you
it
don't have
unlimited.
to, you don't have to label it anymore. But I think that a lot of the stock market gains, not a lot, maybe not a lot, but certainly a significant portion of stock market gains are tied to that.
I think also people, generally the people who are doing or playing in the stock market don't know to go beyond the surface. You talked about the underlying information. You have to look underneath it, the unemployment rate that's going down. Why? What is the driving factor?
Right,
Is it because
right.
people are getting jobs? Are they getting
Falling out of the
paying
market,
jobs,
right.
or are they because they aren't part of the equation
But
anymore?
don't you love having a CPA who talks more than just tax rates?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
This is great.
I
Well,
get
that-
beauty on tax rates too.
Yeah,
so
yeah, no, no.
If you want to talk tax
That-
and audit, and I can get there.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But see, you have someone who's intelligent who can think outside of that one specific
Things don't happen in a vacuum. That's right.
Exactly. Okay. Before we get to our next commercial break, next week we are going to have another special trivia contest. where the winner is going to get a 2-night stay at the beautiful Mount View Hotel. Experience the art of relaxation at Mount View Hotel and Spa in Napa Valley. Mount View Hotel and Spa is a green hotel celebrating 100 years of hospitality and set in the center of Calistoga's many pleasures. Contact their friendly concierge staff 24/7. Call 800-816-6877 or visit them online at www.mountviewhotel.com. And I don't know if you guys ever looked at that hotel, but look at the pictures. They're pretty awesome. So check out Mount View, not Mountain View, but mountviewhotel.com. So here's the question, and I'll give you the rules. 3 out of 10 people admit they have done this after 11 p.m. Okay? And it's a very clean show now, so understand that. Okay, and here are the rules. No previous winners on Best of Investing contests. You have to email Edward at bestofinvesting.com the answer by midnight tonight, and I will read from among the correct answers next week who the winner is. Now we're going to cut to our second commercial break, and here's the trivia question. In what movie does Marlon Brando say his famous, "I could have been a contender"? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2 nights before you were born. It's before I was born too, I think. Free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. In what movie does Marlon Brando say his famous line, "I could have been a contender"? Call 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, and spell out your email letter 1 letter at a time, and we'll be right back. Here we go. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Robert Spinoza of RPM Mortgage and Kathryn Harris of Parati & Karad. And when we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. In what movie does Marlon Brando say his famous, "I could have been a contender" line? Anybody? He wasn't old enough. Yeah. No, that's not the name of the movie, though. Darn, that's right. Yeah, because we are regulated by the FCC. Okay. On the Waterfront.
I did see that.
Yeah, oh, you did see that?
I did see
See,
that.
I didn't see it.
I went through a
you
phase.
have no excuse.
I know. I went through a phase where I watched all the best pictures of the year, and then when I got to Marty, I'm like, some of these are not very good. I stopped watching them.
You mean the movie
The
Marty?
movie Marty,
with
yeah.
Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah, it was not a good movie.
Some of these old movies are terrible.
I'm like, that was the best movie? That was the best picture?
Yeah, but best movie of the
50 whatever. 60.
Yeah. Or just, if they have, 10 bad movies, they got to still pick one. Okay. Robert, we have an email received for you that says, do you see the banks easing up on requirements for home loans? A good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. You know what? Up to this point, I would tell you that I don't really think that the guidelines have gotten a lot looser. They certainly have gotten a little bit looser. But what everybody in my industry who's done well has done is they've gotten better working with less. So more efficient, able to coach the clients through tricky processes and get things approved that maybe before you would not have expended the effort to get approved. So I think in that sense, we've all become the survivors in the industry. We've become very adept at working with what we have. That said, I think 2014 is going to be a challenging year for the industry because in January, we're going to start seeing some of the real force of the Dodd-Frank bill be implemented in what is known as a qualified mortgage. And that will have certain hard and fast debt-to-income requirements and down payment requirements that will really narrow the scope of the box that the loans can fit in. And I'm hoping that there will be enough market out there for loans that don't fit in the box that it will remain competitive for consumers. And so that's my take on going forward. I think right now, very important to remember, if you're a home buyer or a homeowner looking to refinance, we have a great opportunity where we do still have a firm grasp on what the guidelines are, and we have rates at historic lows, and that's something to not take for granted. So I would leave with that. I don't see things getting especially more lenient, but I would say, take advantage of what we do have now. It's not all that bad.
Do you think interest rates are going to have an impact next year?
I'm a little less concerned about the interest rate part of it. I think removing the punch bowl is very, very difficult, more difficult than a lot of people imagine, and I think that home loan rates right now it'd be very tough to sustain the market with them much higher than they are now. A little bit higher, I think we can live with that. Certainly, many people take a huge benefit from even half point interest rate difference.
Well, you're definitely right on top of the market. So a lot of people out there either refinancing or wanting to buy a home. How do they get a hold of Robert Spinoza?
Very easily. So phone number is 877-270-5959, and with RPM Mortgage, rpm-mtg.com is the website. My own website, themortgagedictionary.com.
That's good.
Tune in anytime, and I have a free homebuyer webinar that I host every month, and the link is on themortgagedictionary.com. Come on by, join, and learn a lot in a short period of time for free.
And they can always go
They can always go to the Best of Investing, and Edward's been kind enough to put up my bio and info there too as well. Thank you.
Well, you're a good-looking guy. That's why I put you up there.
That's not me.
And in fact, Kathryn, we forgot to ask you because we mentioned that you were from Parati and Karad, and it's a CPA firm.
We're a local CPA firm. We're in Larkspur, California. We are full
Great
service. We do audit and test work. We also do full service for taxes as well for individuals, for corporations, states, you name it.
Okay.
Lots of tax forms.
And it's interesting because there aren't too many companies that do audits anymore. You got to be kind of a specialized company to do an audit.
You would think so, but I think it's going to be something. I think that it's one of the demands that's going to be, or one of those industries that's going to be expanding.
That's a good
more
point.
and
Yeah.
more
Regulations.
regulations.
It's
Good point.
I actually enjoy those. Everything that's new, any more regulations that require more audits.
Yeah, that's good. That's good for you.
Job
Yeah.
security.
That's why you like the Franken Dodd.
Yeah, licking your chops as I said Dodd-Frank.
Yeah. Okay, we received an email kind of generically here that I think is probably something I should answer. It says here, it's kind of a two-part question. I thought I heard you say, because it was for me, I thought I heard you say previously mentioned that, I thought I heard you previously mention that it practically doesn't matter which insurance company you buy life insurance from. Did you really say that? Okay, so that's one part of the question. The other is, what about the non-medical exam life insurance ads I see on TV or get in the mail? Okay, so let's go to the first part about does it matter what life insurance you buy term life insurance from? Now, it's going to sound kind of crazy, but believe it or not, it almost doesn't matter.
Really?
Yeah, and here's the reason. Excuse me. Except for in cases of gross fraud. Some guy comes up to your house and says, I represent the dog cat life insurance company, and he takes off with your money. For the most part, there has never been a case where an insurance company has not paid a life claim.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So whether they were a B+ company, most companies are not even in the C-rated company. Right. And the reason is because other companies come in and buy out the premium policies.
That
It's like a secondary market.
Yeah, exactly. And there's,
You're right.
that's right. Exactly. There's reinsurance. Yeah.
Reinsurance.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. So that being said, obviously you want to deal with somebody who is going to get you the cheapest rate for the term policy. And the thing that drives me a little crazy with some insurance agents is, and this happens a lot behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of insurance companies will have two different rates. Okay. The one that pays the insurance agent a higher commission, and the one that pays the insurance agent a lower commission. And guess what? If you're the insured, you're going to pay higher if the insurance agent makes a higher commission. Right? Kind of makes sense, right? So what I do personally is I run. I'm totally independent. I know this is very self-serving, and it's meant to be so. Okay. So what I do is I run. I have independent computer software, with hundreds of companies. Because I'm licensed with hundreds of companies. I'm totally independent. And that's the other thing. You don't want to go with any guy who says I captive. That's an agent. You don't want to do that. Okay. So being totally independent, someone will come and say, okay, I need life insurance. This is how much we want to go for. I just stick it in the machine, and out pops the top.
You have their rating.
Yeah, exactly. And I always go for the cheapest one because there's no reason to go. I mean, most of these companies have been around 50 or 100 or 200 years.
It's like a 30-year fixed loan. To be quite honest, I mean, when we're pricing loans, it often works that same way. I think it's you mentioned self-serving, but I don't take it as that being a negative. I think if you trust the person with whom you're working and they are doing the diligence they should be doing on the sales side, you should be in good standing.
And I've had situations where it's very hard for another insurance agent to backdoor me.
Right.
Because I'm
right.
giving them the lowest
You're
stuff
giving
that's
them a
out
good deal.
there.
And
Right.
do you just take a flat commission off of that, or is
Well,
that when
just,
you work with
you know what?
anyone who's independent?
What happens is all the insurance companies pay agent commissions.
Right.
It's just one of those types of industries
Right.
that there's so many things involved with people's health and all this stuff that they can't just do it, online,
Right.
so to speak. You really have to have an agent. That's
Right.
the way they designed it.
Right.
So what happens? I honestly don't even ask. I don't want to get swayed.
Right.
And I don't want to do that. I just look and I go, whatever's the cheapest, and then some are cheaper for monthly versus
Right.
annual, and some are cheaper for 5-year, 10-year, 15,
You-
20, or 30 years. So it's not a one size fits all.
You might be taking that for granted, but I know I'm making the analogy between home loan pricing, and I can tell you your clients benefit from that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very rare
Yeah.
that, like I said, I never get backdoored by
Right.
another agent,
Right.
and the only reason people drop the policies is because they either didn't have any more money or
Right.
they didn't need the insurance anymore.
Yeah.
They hit the lottery and they didn't need it. Or, God forbid, I've had a few clients die,
Yeah.
and it's a good thing that their
Yeah.
widow actually,
Yeah.
was very fortunate. Okay, so here's the other thing, and again, if people want to get a hold of me, sure, go ahead and call our 888-912-1190, and I have that on voicemail. Leave your name and your age and how much insurance you want, and I'll run it through and give you a free quote.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the other part: is what about those non-medical exam life insurance ads you see on TV? I won't name them, or the ones that you get in the mail. And I'm going to make it really simple for you. If you are in any decent health, so if you can, as Mark loves to say, if you can fog a mirror, the odds are.
If you don't skydive while smoking.
Yeah, exactly. Then you should never get
Right.
those other ones.
Right.
Because what's happening is you're getting thrown into a pool with people who are
Oh,
about
so they're
to
distributing
die.
the risk.
Of course,
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Okay. Now this one I am going to mention because I got it in the mail, and it was from
You
our
gotta
favorite
love that.
AARP.
Yes.
Because unfortunately I'm over 50, so I'm on their list. And this one was through New York Life, which used to be captive agents. I don't know if they're captive anymore. So I'm going to give you an example here. For a male agent, and they know how old I am. Those
They already
rascals.
put it in.
They already put it in. Okay.
Yeah.
They
We've
give
already done
a range.
everything for you.
You've already done exactly. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So people age 50 to 54, that's me, for a $100,000 policy was going to cost $73.71 a month, basically $885 a year.
Right.
But it wasn't locked in. So what happens is, as you get into the next bracket,
Oh, 'cause of-
it goes up to $1,300, then 5 years later 1,900, 5 years later 2,500, and 5 years later 3,600.
Wow.
Okay, so get this. I went online to look for myself. I said, okay, well, what? Because I already have insurance, but I go, I got it a few years ago. Let's see
Right.
what it would be now. Instead of $885 a year, I could get the exact same one with one of the companies I deal with. That's a major company for $166, locked in for 10 years.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to go locked in for 15 years, it would only be $233. I mean, basically, for less than half of what these rascals were going to charge for an increasing one, I could have gotten a 30-year guaranteed locked-in policy.
Now, were you able to see that information all on the same page, or is it something you had to dig into and get the full disclosure so you could see? Does it tell you that after 5 years it will?
Oh, it says it right here. Premiums,
So it does,
premiums
okay.
above are what they currently charge. The initial premiums increase as you enter each new 5-year band.
Right.
It says it right
Right.
here,
Okay,
very
so at least
clearly,
there's some
very
disclosure.
clearly in 5-point
Well, that's what I was
point
That's
font.
my frustration with lots of industries is the lack of disclosure, or the
Yeah.
disclosure that is in 5.5
Yeah.
font, or it's in the language that most people just don't
Don't
understand.
Oh yeah. Well, it was so funny. Some of these things on TV where you look and it's so blurred. It's like I can't even imagine that being
Even in
legal.
high def too.
But,
Yes,
but I
exactly.
will counter that with saying that my industry has the opposite problem,
Yeah.
where when you go in and you sign your loan documents, there are so many disclosures, and it could be in 25-point font,
And it's still confusing.
it's
because
still
there's
confusing.
too much.
and
yeah.
it's too much, and so somewhere, I don't think our society will bear this, but somewhere in the middle would be ideal. Consumers would be informed of what their rights are, their responsibilities, but the legalities
Yeah.
of it
Just
and all
make it
that.
one
was-
page.
Right.
You know, because
I
it's
mean,
like, okay, you want the loan,
So
you gotta sign this. You want the loan. It's like, throw me the whip, I'll throw you the idol.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna cut to our third commercial. Oh, so again, if anyone wants to get a free life insurance quote from me, and we'll get a personal phone call from me after the show or within a few days, just call our 888-912-1190 number and tell me how much insurance you want and what your age is, and let me know if there's any health issues. Because if you've had cancer, we can actually
Right.
still get you
Right.
insurance. It's just gonna be at a higher rate, but we'll find out. Okay, so here is the third commercial break. Trivia question. In what movie does Alan say, "I'm not supposed to be within 200 feet of a school or a Chuck E. Cheese"? The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay. Well, I said that without laughing, so pretty good. A three-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. In what movie does Alan say, "I'm not supposed to be within 200 feet of a school or a Chuck E. Cheese"? Of course, I don't know if he says it that way. I don't remember. I did see the movie, but I forgot that line. Make sure to include your name, your email address, speak slowly, and spell out your email one letter at a time for us, please. And don't touch that dial, because we're going to be right back with closing comments. Good.
I think she needs to get her contact info, though.
I didn't.
Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Robert Spinoza of RBM Mortgage and Kathryn Harris of Karate and Karad. And what movie does Alan say, "I'm not supposed to be within 200 feet of a school or a Chuck E. Cheese"?
You stumped me pretty much all day today.
Did I? The tough questions. Okay.
It's got to be some Adam Sandler movie, and I wouldn't.
No, along those lines,
Okay.
The Hangover.
Oh yeah.
What was the line again?
It was, and I don't know if he said it this way, but it was, "I'm not supposed to be within 200 feet of a school or a Chuck E. Cheese." Okay, and you know what, Kathryn? I apologize. We forgot to tell the audience. I know they were sitting on the edge of their seat going, "Gosh, this lady sounds really kind of cool, very nice, not your typical accountant. How do I get a hold of her if I wanted to, talk about taxes or do some kind of planning?
Sure.
How do I get a hold of you?"
I can be reached at 415-461-8500. It's the front office, and you can ask for me if you got any questions.
Okay. If people forget, they can get a hold of me, and I can.
What was the
pass
number
on to
again?
you.
415-461-8500.
That's a nice, easy one to remember. And we have a couple of minutes to go. Robert, you had a very interesting article about unemployment.
Oh, I just saw a little blurb about it. It said that between the ages of 15 and 24 in Greece, there is a 64% unemployment rate.
That's not good.
Staggering. Staggering.
That makes me feel better to be American.
Yeah, here's the part that I
It's a
took.
little bit better. Well, I think that it's not nearly at 64%, but I believe it is quite high.
Here in the
In
States?
the States, it's I think in the
Oh.
20s%.
What's interesting about this is that is the perfect demographic for rioting in the streets.
Well, didn't Greece have like a lot of problems over the
They
last few
did.
years? And I don't know if they still do.
God, to have that amount of people unemployed in that, when you have that amount of energy as a kid, it's just you got to do something.
And besides olive oil, what's their biggest export? Besides Greeks.
I was gonna say now-
Tax cheating. I don't know.
Tax cheating. Yeah. How do you export tax cheating?
I don't know, but they'll find a way to do it.
Well,
I hear they're experts at
their
it.
industry was travel. Imagine.
Yeah,
they
a lot of tourism.
do a lot of tourism.
There you go.
And it just hasn't been that way. Obviously, with the market going the way and how the economy's been worldwide the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And they their tax rates and their benefits.
I think benefits
back
are
to the benefits and pensions and all that.
I think the United States has to continually look overseas to observe what's going on there with an aging population and the need for social services and the benefits, like you said. It's something we need to keep an eye on as a country ourselves.
As a history, don't we usually follow England, but we're like 100 years behind?
Oh, I don't know about that.
You got something to look forward to.
But I think it's a lot of it's the benefits of the public sector. I think that's what is for Greece. That's their issue.
Well,
there were a lot of people who they had guaranteed
That's it,
and,
yeah.
Right.
and their compensation and their retirement packages. I think the same thing happened with France. They had to increase their
Contributions from the employer.
age that people
Oh,
could
yeah, retire,
Yeah.
sure, 75.
Well, it wasn't set. It was from like 60 to 65.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that hard.
But when you and I are ready, it's going to be 172
Wow.
that they
Yes.
can retire. Well, that's what I've always said, is that they should be doing defined contribution plans rather than defined benefit, because who knows what rate of
Right.
return you can earn on your investments. At least if you say, look, we know we're going to put in X amount of dollars, and have the employees put in too.
You know, these are good ways to kind of end the show. Not that it's necessarily a positive note, but it is something to think about all the time. I mean, you know, the people we elect make these decisions in all seriousness, and these are things we as a country are not going to get around easily. We need to be thinking about that kind of stuff because our future depends on all of these social programs we have, what we want, what we expect, what we contribute.
Well, on that note, here's our closing thoughts for the day. Now, I asked God for a bike, but I know God doesn't work that way. So I stole a bike and asked for forgiveness. I figured He did work that way. And one time my car was acting weird, so I hired an exorcist. And when I didn't pay her, guess what happened? My car got repossessed. Oh, please tell them to stop. Okay, tune in next week to the Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions and a lot less puns, I promise.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long. Good.
Good show, guys.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.